Here in the highlands of Guatemala, the beauty of the countryside is deceptive. Life in these villages is a struggle. Abject poverty drives most of the younger men and women to travel to the United States illegally in search of work, but many return empty-handed. At this back entrance to the Guatemala City Airport, nearly every day, families come to wait for relatives who have just been deported by US immigration officials. In the past year alone, some 30,000 deportees from the United States stepped through this gate, most of them penniless and in debt. In the fall of 2008, William Toch became one of these returning deportees. He and many others from his village of El Rosario had been caught by immigration officials. They had been working at a meatpacking plant in the American heartland.
Ya llegamos. Sí.
William had only been in America for 2 months. He was arrested on the first day he began working illegally at the plant. The friends and family who turned out to console him knew their own sons and daughters were not far behind.
Como a los 10, 20 minutos supieron que ya nosotros estábamos presos, pues, y dice que aquí lloraba la gente, tanto como aquí como en Postville.
William returned to his parents' house.
Yo padezco de cáncer. Por eso ellos se fueron para allá. Y ahora me tienen que operar, porque necesitamos dinero, porque tienen que sacar esto.
No fui a hacer nada. ¿Qué es lo que fui a hacer? Es endeudar y comprometer más mi familia.
William was 30 years old with 4 children when he made the trip to the United States. But then came the raid. It was May 12, 2008, when federal agents stormed the Agriprocessors plant, the country's largest kosher meatpacker. The raid in Postville, Iowa, would become the biggest in US history. Nearly 400 workers were arrested. The government charged Agriprocessors and its manager Sholom Rubashkin with harboring undocumented aliens, employing children, and workplace health and safety violations. Most of the men were charged with document fraud and sentenced to 5 months in prison, followed by deportation. The women who were sole caregivers of children were fitted with electronic tags and allowed to stay in Postville pending trial. They were banned from working.
Pues yo no sabía ni qué era, nomás me dijo que subiera el pie y pues me lo dejó allí.
The raid had taken a fifth of the town's population, and for a time it would put Postville at the center of the US immigration debate. Before the raid, Postville, Iowa was a cultural curiosity, a bustling melting pot in the middle of the Iowa plains. At first glance, it doesn't look too different from any other small town in the rural Midwest. But over the years, hundreds of mostly undocumented Guatemalans and Mexicans settled here with their families, drawn by jobs at Agriprocessors. The plant was the nation's largest producer of kosher beef and chicken, founded in the 1980s by Hasidic Jews from Brooklyn. The hundreds of undocumented workers were a vital part of the local economy. They said they'd risked everything to work here for $7 an hour. Most of those arrested in Postville came from just 2 villages, El Rosario and San Jose Calderas. An economic lifeline from Postville once ran to nearly every home here. William Toch was just one of many who said his hopes have been dashed.
Una parte me siento feliz porque estoy al lado de mis padres, al lado de mi esposa y mis hijos, ¿va? Tengo mi familia, pero luego pues ya me pongo a pensar también en la deuda.
To make the trip north, William had borrowed $7,000, much of it from a local moneylender who took his parents' home as collateral. He had to at least make the interest payments, or his family would be on the street. But there is no industry here, no steady jobs. Most families live off rented plots of land, growing just enough corn and beans to eat. Day labour is scarce and pays next to nothing.
Aquí lo que uno gana son 45 quetzales el día y trabaja uno de las 7 para las 4 de la tarde. No es competente ni para pagar los intereses del préstamo que yo recibí.
We went to the homes of some of the town's most vulnerable. Alejandra Zamora suffers from Alzheimer's. We had met her daughter in Postville, but Rosita was one of the women placed under house arrest after the raid, and she can no longer send money back to her mother. She told us she feels helpless.
Ella está como perdiendo su mente. Ella agarra camino, se va, se pierde y no sabe ella qué hace. Ella está esperando que yo le mande dinero y yo no estoy trabajando para mandarle ese dinero.
About 40 women faced months or even years in legal limbo here in Postville. They've been allowed to stay in the country temporarily to pursue claims of forced labour and abuse and to testify against Agriprocessors management. But their petition for full legal status was uncertain.